Is everyone ready to go? We'll make a start. The live stream is going. Kia ora koutou in the rangatira. Mihi atu ki te kaupapa o te rā, nō rewa tēnā rā koutou katoa. Welcome to the Climate Change Subcommittee meeting today. We'll move, do the apologies first, and then we'll move straight into the election of the chair, at which point the chair will then chair the meeting. So I don't have any apologies from the room. In that case, we'll move to item 4, election of chair, and I will call for nominations.
I'd like to nominate Morris Rodway if he's interested.
Thank you. Yes, I will accept that. Seconder, I can say a couple of words, so that's right.
Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, that's it.
All in favour?
Perhaps I should come up there.
Yes, we'll swap places. Maybe.
Well done, Chair. Wait a moment. What just happened there?
Any
other nominations?
Sorry, any further nominations?
Sorry, I missed that.
Any further ones? Sorry, we can just.
Yeah. Is it appropriate to go back?
See Morris back to the seat.
Morris, we'll just.
Nomination.
Oh, I see. Sorry, we had a slight glitch in process. So
Could be my fault, I'm sorry. Look, I'd like to nominate Phil Morrison.
any seconders?
Yeah, I'll second that for the sake of, I believe in mandate, so. Okay. Would it be okay for me to speak to that nomination?
So if we do perhaps the speech on this side first and then on this one.
Well, I have, we've been talking to some of the other members here, and what I think would be a good idea would be to the person that represents the council on the regional forum to be not the chair, even though that is a recommendation up here, and that person to be Phil, because I think he would be have the good skills to represent this council on that regional climate change committee. So what I'm sort of proposing is that the role is kind of split, that I'll be the chair, happy to do that, but that for the regional representation that Phil does that work. Not sure what that meeting entails, whether or not somebody else like myself could be an observer there, so that we have a kind of a team approach to it. And I think that would work quite well, and I think Phil's happy to do that. But,
I'm not sure that's appropriate that I chuck my 2 cents in now or not.
That's fine.
You're right. If I, yeah. Just on that, actually, Morris, maybe because I don't think in the papers it suggests a deputy chair, but perhaps that would cover that option that Morris has suggested if the chair and the deputy chair were elected now, and then we can delegate the responsibility of being a representative at the region-wide level to Phil or with Morris as the secondary. Does that work?
So potentially having a separate resolution about appointing a deputy chair as well.
Yeah, I know that in the papers it says that the chair of this committee will be our representative at that region-wide level, but given Morris's explanation now, that might be the solution.
So maybe if we deal with the chair and then put, if you're happy, Councillor Ludlow, a separate resolution through about appointing a deputy at that point.
Yes, if that works for Councillor McDonald, does that?
That will, come to this side of the room first.
Yeah, should we just go through the process of the chair first? Is that?
Yeah, if that works for you.
And perhaps if I might just comment that, I'm thank you for the nomination. So I'm kind of ambivalent in terms of what role I feel, as long as you feel you can add value. I'm happy to support the mahi in the most appropriate way to progress stuff both at the council level and at the regional level, the joint directions.
Could I just ask a question with regarding our iwi reps here and their voting rights? I presume.
Thank you for that. I was going to make that.
Yeah, I presume Stuart can vote on this.
I will, yes, we're getting nods from the expert on this one.
Thank you.
Okay, could I just say my nomination of Phil, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One being that climate change in the context of Southland is very new. So no one of us here is coming into the role potentially with any institutional knowledge around it. So none of us have the advantage over others. What I could say is that I think it's really important for the subcommittee chairperson to be also the representative onto the cross council, because of the interaction with the staff here. No matter what, on the cross council committee, I believe that they will look to ES for the main guidance and the main thrust behind it. So I see that crossover as important. In particular, to Phil, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Phil, that you've obviously got really deep skills when it comes to collaboration. So this is what this new role is going to be about, and around process. And the other thing too, just lastly, I'd say, is that it's really good for this council to have a first-term councillor coming into a leadership position, as opposed to the traditional way of waiting your turn until you get into your second rotation. So I think that will be good for us. So
Standing orders provide for a vote.
Would we do a division, Jan? If both nominations stand?
You want to vote, you use the same voting systems that were available for the inaugural meeting of council, so you can have a choice of going successive rounds of voting where one person gets more votes than the other, or you just do the 50%.
With 7 people here to vote, I think one's going to get a 50% majority unless there's an abstention.
And just before we do
It's
that,
online, is he? Because he is an ex officio member. I don't see him online. No, okay.
before we do that, is there anything else anyone else wants to
Yeah,
say?
as the seconder. Yeah, no, like I do very strongly support Morris in this role. And I mean, obviously, Phil, you've done fantastic work and you're clearly capable. And I see that the role that's being discussed for you is super appropriate. I'm supporting Morris because over the years, he and I and others have been in discussion a lot around the topic of climate change. And though none of us are expert, Morris certainly is very well read and has shown that time and time again. So what I'm saying is I'm familiar with Morris's position on this, which I support entirely. And Phil, I simply just don't know. You could be an expert without my having known it. So I really like the proposal of this, the balance that's been set. So that's my view. Thank you.
Councillor Matthew.
So I know I've had a crack, but it's just occurred to me that we could have co-chairs rather than a deputy, and therefore both have status that would be valuable.
I think we put it to the vote. I think either way will be fine. I think.
Yeah, just trying to find a solution.
Yeah.
I'm unsure if that's an option under our.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yeah, no, it was only
June to give us some time.
came over here, right?
So from the earlier conversation, you were happy with the first option of voting? Jane, that was okay. So can I put that to the vote? Those in favour of appointing Councillor Rodway, please indicate. Okay, I think that's made the decision, and I'm very glad to hand over to Councillor Rodway to lead the meeting now.
Yeah, so yeah.
Well, Commiseration, bro.
Lot of work coming your way.
So one way they would, you know, perhaps we get some resolution, deputy, turn his screens on it.
Right. So are we up to number 5 or do you want to do
I think the resolution and under item 14.
It looks like you come up short. Is there an extension?
I Google it. I'm getting a new one.
Further resolution to appoint a deputy chair.
So, thank you very much, councillors. I now like to suggest that we have another deputy chair, which isn't in the agenda, but sounds like quite a good idea. And so, can I call for nominations for the
A resolution first, councillor to, to appoint a deputy chair. I think councillor Ludlow indicated.
Yeah, I'm going to move that resolution.
So this is to whether or not we should have a deputy chair or not. Second for that. But we do have one. Peter. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other comment on that? No. So we have a move and a second that this committee appoints a deputy chair. So can we vote on that, please? All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Now we'll call that.
For nominations.
Nominations for the deputy chair.
Meeting is being recorded.
I would, Phil Morrison.
Morrison, a seconder. Peter McDonald. The other nominations. All right, so no other nominations. So I declare Bill to be the deputy chair of the climate change subcommittee. Thank you very much. Now we go back to the confirmation of the minutes. Thank you, Rachel. I wasn't at those that meeting.
I can move that.
Somebody who was. Thanks, Lyndall. Somebody else who was there.
I'll second.
Eric, thank you very much. Seconder. Any discussion? Those in favour, please say aye. Right, now on to item 5, draft terms of reference. That we're up to, Rachel.
It is.
Do you have any discussion on that?
The staff may have the draft terms of reference to put on the screen if you would look at.
Yeah.
Just a matter of putting up the terms of reference on the screen so that it's easier for everyone to be referring to the same copy. This is the copy that is on page 8 of the agenda. It has been amended since the 14th of July subcommittee meeting based on the feedback we received at that subcommittee meeting. And Chair Marama have also had some input into it as well in the meantime. And so the changes that have been made really just representing those points in the minutes, which are on page 5 of your agenda. It's a couple of minor points. If you have had a chance to look through it, and it's just a matter of whether you're happy with where it's at now, or it's something that you've got to come back to on a 6-monthly basis, so that it's a living document. And that's the recommendation in the terms of reference.
All right, Lyndall.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy as long as we keep in mind that they can be reviewed at any time.
Recording in progress.
I'm not sure that we need to set in stone a time frame. us being cognizant of the fact that we can make those changes should we need to.
Yeah.
And given that we
Have we made the right decision?
it must be it's the seats. And given that it's taken us quite a long time to get to this point, we're going to get moved on.
Okay, thank you. Robert. How does the chairman's climate change declaration signed some time ago correlate with what we're saying now? Do they? Because he's made various declaration commitments on our behalf. Does that tie in with what we're saying here? Have you put the two things together to see what they mean?
So we obviously have got the declaration. We were intending actually to bring it to the next climate change subcommittee meeting just to refresh everyone's memories. So really happy to have a conversation at that next meeting with the declaration in front of everyone to check that everyone feels it does, the terms of reference do align with that declaration. If it's appropriate.
Well, maybe. I just wonder, I'm not quite sure how much power that Nichols' declaration holds over us. So I just don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Right, so that can be something we can follow up on and report back to that next committee meeting as well, but what it means for the rest of the organisation.
Any other questions, Peter?
Yeah, just looking at this, it's really quite internal, isn't it? It doesn't really talk much about our collaboration with other councils.
Central government.
Yeah, doesn't really think that our main thrust, I think, for the subcommittee is to turn it into regional wide. Well, this will still remain. So just wonder about that. And it would be good to have some sort of communication strategy involved. Or does that go once we establish a regional wide one? Okay. Just
Number 6, maybe councillor, enabling community to adapt. Maybe.
Yeah, I envisage a community discussion that's ongoing over a year's period with communication, what we do, going right from the start and right through.
Joint effort or
Most likely a joint effort. That would be the appropriate way, wouldn't it?
I think it's anticipated that that can be an element of the working group and the group of the mahi that's undertaken as part of that, or directed or scoped, and then the act as part of the action. Yeah, we're hopeful that the subcommittee plays a particular role within the organisation, and then the working group plays part of that role. It's quite convoluted. Yeah, we just have to be really clear what the roles are for each component of what's going on. And that was the hope in drafting the terms of reference, and sufficiently flexible enough to enable whatever comes through that working group process.
And
Yeah, and to speak a little bit further to that, at the time that this was initially drafted, the interagency working group was only just barely on the radar, and whereas it's now it's going to become a thing in the very near future. So I guess it comes back to the comment about the fact that these need to be a living document, because when that interagency group, the governance meeting, and it kicks off early in the new year, and that starts, determining what its form is going to take, I think that it definitely influence where things are at the subcommittee as well. So yeah, in that sense, maybe it's just a matter of coming back to,
This subcommittee will react to that cross-council committee,
yeah,
and especially for point number 7, Mr. Chairman, Environment, South and Internal Work Programs. I would assume that cross-council committee would develop a template to go across all the entities that we would fit into that. We would have to implement, and individual councils have to implement it, of course. But
I'd like to suggest that we lead the way on that actually, and that we trial some ways to take to the regional space, because we're supposed to be leaders. We might make some mistakes along the way, but gotta give it a crack, I think.
Robert? Mr. Chairman, my question is, I think I've asked this before, but I can't quite remember the answer. Why are we a subcommittee rather than a committee? Roger?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just looking around for Jan, who has unfortunately left the room. I again follow up and bring that back to this committee, sorry, the subcommittee. There was a good reason, but sorry, I can't remember that off the top of my head.
We're a subcommittee of the strategy and policy, not a subcommittee of the council.
Why?
I don't know, but that's.
No, I'm not blaming you. You might I mean, are we such a minor little thing that we did a subcommittee?
I think it's an understanding that we're going to go live to the province with the cross-council committee.
There was an assessment through you, Chair, of the terms of reference of the Strategy and Policy Committee and the linkages through to the subcommittee were strong, so that seemed to be a natural home. But as I say, we will go back and we can report on that at the next meeting.
Just a reflection, in essence, Anka's alluded to this as being quite a dynamic space. So there's another, there's quite a few working groups and subsets of things, and they're sort of evolving. And I think what will happen is when things start to land, everyone's pragmatically going to look across and say, there's a lot of meetings with the same people in those meetings. And at that point in time, if the question that you've asked is a really valid question to come back to about where things sit and how to efficiently get the mahi done without being in lots of meetings. So if the subcommittee finds that their work program could be pulled up into the strategy and policy, for example, then that's a conversation that could be had at that time. So I think there's certainly, from my observation, being in lots of partnership conversations with the TAs as well as ES, there's a lot of the same people at the same meetings. So we're all going to find that we can rationalise and consolidate our work programs. Yeah.
It's the whole point of the regional wide committee, so we don't have overlapping responses right across the board. That's been mine.
So can I ask then, how often is this committee planning to meet?
If required.
Well, I think we probably do need to have it set out on a number of times, whether it's quarterly, is that the plan?
Up until now, it's been an as required basis.
Hmm.
And so that's definitely a question for subcommittee to work through so that we can schedule the right number of meetings in for the coming year.
Yeah.
And for you, Chair, there has been a suggestion that we move to a 6-weekly cycle that's in between the Strategy and Policy Committee meetings.
Exactly what I was going to say, because if this subcommittee is to inform the strategy and policy committee, then it needs to meet in a timely way before the strategy and policy committee, so that its work is able to come through properly. So I would suggest 6 weeks.
So is that agreed then? 6 weekly? Yeah.
Need to be mindful once we get a cross-council committee up and going too, how that will fit into that reporting too with strategy and policies.
So the purpose is the committee to meet and recommend to the Strategy and Policy Committee, which would then recommend to the council any particular course of action.
Through the chair, would it be the intention that the cross-council meeting group might meet every 6 weeks as well?
Yes.
Sorry, what was that again?
Would it be the intention that the cross-council grouping might meet every 6 weeks as well?
At the moment, we're proposing bi-monthly, but it's, again, it's something that's for discussion at the first meeting. And so there's nothing set in stone for that either.
It raises the complications of the different councils' meeting cycles as well.
Yeah.
So we can't.
And some of them have changed them, so it's all a bit of a.
Just to come back to this diagram, which is in your agenda on page 18, I guess this is where we would, it came back to trying to draw a picture of how does this all fit together. And in ES's case, we're doing it via the subcommittee, but yeah, it's a question of, is that a necessary layer or not, but probably not something to just necessarily answer right at this point in time, given how dynamic the space is.
So do we need something recorded in the minutes about this?
Do we need a paper actually presented to us with
Yeah.
how it all fits
How it
together,
all
and maybe once let's just do it ourselves, let's not wait for anybody. Maybe staff need to put together the time frames and how it is envisaged, it's all going to feed into each other so that we.
Yeah, and through you, Chair, I'd like to just let the governance meeting of the interagency group land first, and that, that just conversation in that sense, allow some of these things to settle first before this actually gets answered, and any recommendations through the consideration. Just allow things to settle.
I half agree. But I think there's internal work that we can get on with anyway. So although that region-wide conversation is a hairy one, I think we could get on with some of our own work in the meantime. So I wouldn't want me to.
Yeah, I support what.
Just got Stuart there, Peter.
I guess I'm just sitting here getting a little bit concerned because and it was brought up in our last conversation about climate change. Let's not forget the land of urgency on this kaupapa, and let's not just treat it like just a good old committee that we might join up and address climate change as we move it through. There is a land of urgency in this. So I just wanted to say that. So there is.
So have you got something specific where we were talking about reporting to the policy committee, but a meeting in between?
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. We're talking about. I can see us talking about meeting and greeting for the next 2 or 3 months.
Mm.
So where's the urgency gone? I still sit here in fear of the chair got standing up here and tell me that we're on the highway to hell and get you A to G. So anyway.
Peter and then Phil.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Phil. I mean, this is all the preamble stuff. We don't know how it fits together, and we're just trying to fit all the blocks together. But I'll just go back. I do support what Linville said, because one of our representatives will go to this cross-council committee and they'll say, so what have you got worked out for us? Yes, we've got to have something. We don't want to predetermine the situation for this new entity, but we want to come to the party with some sort of broad outline or framework, because they will be looking to us.
Phil?
So just returning to the terms of reference, and I think it links to your observation, Peter, that there is some outward facing and some inward facing action enabled by this terms of reference, and they probably are fit for purpose, and it allows us to crack on internally with some initiatives if we are not making as much progress as we want in the interagency space, while also allowing us and prompting us to engage in the interagency space once the other territorial authorities are good to go in that space. So I think that I'm reassured by these terms of reference, and I think that give us a good basis for moving forward.
Right, thank you. Eric?
Yeah, well, there's no reason why they can't be amended at any point if there are things that actually develop, surely.
Okay, so we need to come to some kind of agreement on exactly what's going to happen. My understanding at the moment is that we should have a meeting that's in time with, so we can provide some advice to the Strategy and Policy Committee, and if necessary to the interagency group. And perhaps at that meeting, we would then be able to work out a program for the rest of the year, so that all of these things can be aligned. But we do need to have a meeting which addresses these points 1 to 7. I imagine at that meeting we would have some topic on each of those and maybe some others. So it gives us a direction to go forward in a positive way. I think everybody here is really keen for us to be seen to be doing something positive and that's directive to the others in the interagency group as well.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I move that recommendation that we had confirmed the terms of reference?
No, I haven't done that yet. Do you want to add anything to that so that we can definitely, or don't we need to do that?
Recommendations clear.
Okay.
Decisions.
Would be separate, wouldn't it?
I can't hear.
No, it's been suggested that we might consider having when the next meeting should be and a time frame for meetings.
As I understand, item 1 of the reference is develop a regional climate strategy, so the chairman can call the meeting time, my interpretation, at a suitable time and get us underway.
Okay.
I mean, there's some other factors you want to consider right now as to when that will be. I imagine would be perhaps early February. But you need to check dates and do various other things about what other obligations are on at that time, so that we've got time to develop an agenda and do the whole thing, rather than set a date right now. My interpretation is, you might correct me, but you have the power as chairman to call that first meeting.
Taking into account everything that you've said here, is everybody happy with that then? Or do you want something more definitive? Is that right?
Well, I've moved that we adopt the terms of reference, so let's get that.
Okay, I'm just saying you don't want to add anything.
No, I think that's a separate, we can add a separate one after if need be, but let's just keep the terms of reference clear and separate.
Okay, we've got a seconder for that. Phil? Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. All right, so that from what you're saying, Eric, that gives us enough flexibility and direction to set the program up.
In my view,
early next year. All right. If everybody's happy with that, we'll go on to item 6.
So through you, Chair, this is basically a summation of the information that was shared at the Climate Change and Community Resilience Induction session. So you might recall that was held last week, and we had the MPI Chief Science Advisor, John Roach, come and talk to you about the opportunities around climate change in the agricultural space. You received some background material on this particular portfolio, and the slides from that background session have been included in the agenda. You heard from a catchment operations manager on flood management aspects, and also from our heads of planner, Gavin Gilder, around how we approach that space. So it was an opportunity for you to reflect on that session and perhaps give us some input on things you would like to pick up in the new year. You might want further information or things to be scheduled into your work program for next year.
Okay. Right. Is there anybody who would like to? Peter, would you like to comment on that and with some ideas of how we might progress?
Just falling out of that presentation.
Mm.
I'm not too sure if it's really helpful to start have this subcommittee focused around the agricultural missions and the Haywaka Canal. I don't really see what role we've got in that space other than just being interested or supporting it.
Yeah.
A couple of reflections emerged for me as I went back to the material, and one of them was on slide titled National Adaptation Plan, and had I thought some really helpful principles for adaptation action, and I thought to me those appeared to be entirely relevant as principles for us at a regional and local level as we were thinking about adaptation to moving forward. I thought it's being proactive, thinking long term, maximising co-benefits, promoting equity, collaborating, adjusting as we go, mainstream adaptation, making well-informed decisions, working with nature. You know, I would see no reason why we would necessarily deviate from those principles and buying our own thinking. Thinking about like regional and local adaptation.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff.
Around the room.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're right.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff here, and I think we need to distill out what will be priorities going forward at that first meeting where we put the energy and focus as that kind of goes forward. I note there's not a recommendation that I can see against item 6, and I'm a bit of a stickler for process, so I'd like to move that the items listed number 6 be noted.
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking as well.
What is it?
What is it? All the stuff here, we're just noting we've accepted it at this meeting with further distillation. Yeah.
Lyndall?
No, fine, I'm happy to second that.
Okay, does anybody want any more comment before we vote on that? Because that might put an end to the discussion about this particular item. There's quite a few things in there. For example, the council's own road to carbon zero or carbon neutral.
Actually, Chairman, I might just make one comment. That, you know, prevention is better than cure. And so we need to remember to be doing what we can to prevent further issues as well as mitigating and adapting. 2 cents worth.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how this fits in this question, because I don't have the document, wasn't able to go to the induction because I had COVID and my computers ran out of chips. So shooting in the dark a wee bit, but
Just trust us.
yeah, no, I do trust you, and I think the discussion's been, thank you. This discussion's been excellent. The one thing that I am not seeing, and I'm just not sure about, is climate change. And are we relying on our own individual knowledge? We're doing the background work at home, we're watching TV, we're coming along here with a mindset about what it is we're dealing with, or are we going to have some kind of, I don't see discussion about the broad picture here at all. I mean, these are really great initiatives, and it's got everything in hand, and we've got a way, we've got a program to work to. But are we just all assuming that we all know what we're talking about? Because I don't think that we do. And I don't know how others feel about this, but is that the missing element here? And I don't mean that we all have to think the same thing, but we have to be up to speed. We have to have heard what's happening, whatever's coming through from a greater, broader agency. We need to know and know that each other knows. That's difficult.
Yeah.
Yes, Eric.
Well, yes, I'd respond to that by saying we've just moved in terms of reference, a list of things, one of which item 4, opportunities for collaboration with other regional council, territorial authorities on climate change, climate resilient communities, including regional climate and interagency groups. That's part of how we get to where we are as in a collaborative working environment. We've already embraced that in our terms of reference as how we go forward.
No, I accept that totally. That's not quite what I mean.
Oh, sorry.
No, but that is really good. That's encouraging that we're so widely spread. And how do we keep up with the play?
Sorry, Jim, are you thinking more of outside expertise to come in
No,
and educate us?
No, I think we've done quite well, very well actually, as far as that's concerned. I'm just wondering about, as a group, how do we quickly upgrade? How do we get up to speed at each meeting, saying, have you heard about this? Are you thinking this? Is this where we're at now? Because otherwise we're just a little bit individualized.
Phil?
One of the takeaways for me from the discussion around previous hui and the work that the foundational work that the staff had invested in was this sense that at a regional level, in conjunction with the TAs and possibly Great South, there's an opportunity for us to do a bit of regional collective sense making, to understand what people perceive are priorities, the gaps and the needs, and to sense check those against what the science is suggesting at a regional level, to bring everyone to a higher level of understanding, but an aligned level of understanding, to then guide our thinking around where to invest our attention moving forward. And if we achieve that at a regional level, then there might be obvious actions that cascade out of that for us, ES subcommittee level to then invest our attention into. And maybe we just need to allow a little bit of space for that sort of aligned understanding to emerge from the joint conversations.
No, I accept that.
So we've just got to note this. Stuart, have you got anything you'd like to add?
Well, I'm really in support of where Robert's come from. Other than this opportunity up here, and I mean, straight away, I'd be suggesting that we might look at our national parks and start some pest management to allow our bush to grow. But is that where everyone else wants to be going? Probably not. And so I generally support what Robert's saying. We need some direction and some documentation ready to leaders and keep us in it, so we're all talking to the same kaupapa rather than bringing in our favourite subject matter on climate change. Because we're probably all having different parts of what climate change and what those priorities that we might want to be addressed. I think that direction. I guess I will be looking for some direction from staff and such like to bring in some. Where's the starting line? Where do we actually start into this?
Yeah, we just got Peter, and then
To say this is quite good. We're working it out. We're sort of building it as we fly the plane. There's nothing wrong with being unsure about how it's progressing, and that's absolutely fine. But what I would say is that we probably haven't got the structure in our heads right of what a subcommittee will do. Will it be subservient to a full council, cross-council committee? How will that work? Will it come back and we delegated responsibilities, or we, whatever that may be? So I don't think we've got that quite right in our head, what the subcommittee role will be in the future. We just carry on and do what we think is best now until we get this cross-council committee up and going, and whatever comes of that falls out the bottom. I'm not really too sure.
Okay. Morris, you've got something?
yeah, would you like to come sit up here so that people can see you? Although I don't think there's anybody online. But anyway, yes, please go ahead.
Rika, working with partnership with Anka. In the terms of reference, number 2 talks about essentially like keeping a handle on emerging issues across the board. And so I think there's an opportunity to facilitate that discussion in the subcommittee or in a workshop space or in a meeting space around what are the shared understanding, what are our shared or divergent assumptions, what information can support us on that learning journey together. And that's an iterative process that we provide space for during our time of working together. I think it's a really great question.
That's exactly what I mean.
That you've asked, and that it's essentially we're creating a learning community and we're not static. So I think that we can facilitate that, and that's particularly number 2, provides the doorway for that. But others we can facilitate that. Equally, I hear what Stuart is saying and around the action and the impetus to action. And so we as staff, I just want to acknowledge that we've heard that and that we can bring forward opportunities in a similar way, iterative and on a, if there's a doorway that's open that can be done in within space, because the board is very clear to us. Some action as well as dialogue and learning. So yeah, I think the terms of reference can facilitate that. And we've heard that, and that's really helpful.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Chairman. I'm wondering, drawing similarities to the not nearly as exciting discussions we had about risk and assurance. That have got us to where we've got to. Sorry, they're exciting for some people. But we spent quite a bit of time kind of getting a feel for what was important for the organisation and prioritising the top 10, for example. So I'm seeing parallels here in a way that perhaps we need to sit around, on the marae or somewhere and thresh out some of this understanding and bringing discussions in and prioritising so that we can crack on with some internal things, but also the big picture things that we want to take to the region. We haven't really had an opportunity, even last year, to be in the room and just discuss and get a feel for what everybody's understanding and priorities and how it affects the organisation and the region. So I'm wondering if we could fit in a workshop, even a half day. As much as I'm reluctant to add another thing to our calendars and another meeting per se, I think this is a groundbreaker that we have to have a crack at. To get us started.
I'll support that thinking, so a half-day workshop and maybe a bit of a paper put out for some ideas to wash around over the Christmas New Year period for us to know how things fit and the stuff that we can do here and the stuff we can leave to a wider group, to a larger group, and really do the big stuff. I don't know.
And how it fits with the all that stuff. We need to thresh that out.
Is that feasible to think? Not probably before Christmas, but.
Through you, Chair, I was just thinking there is a council meeting currently booked for the 25th of January, I think, which will be a reasonably short agenda, so potentially that day we could run that type of workshop. The Strategy and Policy Committee meeting is mid-February, and then we could move to that 6-weekly cycle, potentially.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Rachel. Now we do have a mover and a seconder that this report number 6, the item number 6, the climate change and community resilience report be noted. So all those in favour of that, please say aye. Aye. That's carried. Right, thank you. And then on to our last item, number 7. Now, I was talking about this earlier about the representative to the interagency group, and I wonder if it is appropriate for us to be represented by Phil mainly, and perhaps myself as well as a backup or as another person who could go and sit in the background. So I would like to move in that direction, that our representative be Phil Morrison with the chairman as a backup. That's appropriate.
The ex officio on that anyway.
No.
Alternate. Yeah, the two.
Alternate, maybe.
Which chairman are you referring?
Chairman of this committee.
Well, just to make it clear, just say that that we recommend that the climate change subcommittee be represented by Phil Morrison, or be represented by the deputy chair of the climate change committee, with the chair as a alternate, or as an alternate. Would that be okay?
I just, there's a small perception issue.
Doesn't sound small.
Yes. So I know this was partly my suggestion, but the wording I think we need to be quite careful of, because we don't want our partners to feel that we're not sending You know what I mean?
Well, to change.
Not that we're not, no, but I know how sensitive some of our partners can be. So as long as we read it and give it the manner with which it is intended, I think that's important.
We can do this.
And I think what Morris said is quite right. We nominated Phil.
Yeah, if we use names, I think.
He's the person we want.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we can't make it, Morris will have to.
Yeah.
The committee would be reasonably large when we think of all the partners, which would be, breaks out the youth representative, other representatives too, so we can't have double up all the way, I wouldn't think.
Certainly not round the table, but there'll be a number of observers there, and I would certainly be.
That's fine, just making you aware that.
Okay, yeah,
Need to grow up.
Delicately, thank you.
thank you, Linda. Is that, have you got that all right? Yeah.
Change subcommittee confirm that Councillor Morrison, with Councillor Bay is an alternative.
Yeah, attendee. Representative.
Representative. Board Mark Southland's governance representative on the regional climate change and advocacy group.
Okay, thank you. Happy with that? What's
So it's the intention that when this group is formed, that they will elect their chair. Is that it's all heading?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And that will be.
Sorry.
It'll be an interesting meeting.
Yeah, I'll move that then, and a seconder, Peter, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carry. Thank you, and I think that's it. So thank you for your attendance, and we look forward to the new year. It's a challenging thing for us. Thank you, Rachel, and we'll start.
Here, thanks, Morris. Very good.
Everybody. Oh.
Meeting closed, 4 o'clock, virtually.